Have you not known? Have you not heard? Has it not been told to you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is He. I love this text from Isaiah. Does it not astound you? I once heard a professor translate. Is this not the story you have felt all your life, deep within your bones, within your soul? You see, sometimes we read scripture like it's our 9th grade literary homework. After Jesus and his disciples left the synagogue, they entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James. No, this isn't homework. It's not meant to be homework. It's not supposed to be drudgery. If it is, then, well, perhaps you haven't known. Perhaps you haven't truly heard. Perhaps it's not been told to you from the beginning in the way it should. You see, a little side story about me and my journey with Scripture. It was one Saturday morning. I was about 16 or 17 when I went up to my dad's office as he was working on his sermon for the following day. I plopped down on his sofa and I asked him, "So what's the text?" And that's when I saw it. An image that will be forever burned into my mind. His face became illuminated. His body was animated. He had a story to tell. A story of excitement, a story of purpose, a story that on one hand was as old as time itself and on the other hand as new as your first look at an infant child. His look to me was an invitation to the grand story that he was about to tell. His eyes to me said, "Have you not known? Have you not heard? Has it not been told to you from the beginning?" I learned 2 profound things that day from my father. One, that these stories in this great big book, that they're so much more than just some little piece of history or some piece of writing. They are alive. There's a newness to them that can only be described by a God who makes all things new. And 2, it was in that moment that I realized that this story was so entrancing that I would one day be sharing it as a priest myself. So with that in mind, looking at Scripture this way, let's look at our gospel for this Sunday again. You see, Jesus and his disciples left the temple and they went to Simon and Andrew's house. Now, Simon's mother-in-law had a fever. She was sick, and when Jesus found that out, he went to a room, he took her hand, and as Scripture says, he lifted her up, or he resurrected her. He transformed her to newness of life by taking the fever away from her and making her well, making her whole, making her healed. The story says she then began to serve them. Her response to this raising up was to become one who serves, diakonia. That's the word in the Greek. And y'all know that word. Just think of our very own Steve Owen, Deacon Steve Owen. This woman instantly became dedicated to a movement of life and light and hope, all because she was resurrected from her illness. Jesus' service to her as a healer makes her in turn want to be like him as one who serves the others. Because that's what you do once you have received the good news. It compels you to serve, diakonia. The word gets around of what took place in that house, and the crowds do what they will continue to do for the remainder of Jesus' earthly ministry. They come to him. And in that dense little town of Capernaum, the whole population gathered around the door of this house. In a town of about 1,500, all of them pushing in on the front door. Can you imagine it? I mean, seriously, can you imagine it? Hundreds or even thousands of people descending on one place, let alone your place, all by word of mouth of what others have seen and heard. Say you heard that there was a man out there who could heal your ailment. All of Meridian would come. Just like that, a whole city came to see Jesus. Can you imagine that? Sure you can. You can imagine it, but you really don't have to, because you've seen it, right? It's happening daily. It's all over the news. Pop-up vaccine location in a stadium, and it's instantly swarmed by people who are coming to it for hope. New vaccines are released in hospitals and clinics, and the phone lines are tied up for hours. People are cramming and waiting in long lines for the hope of being cleansed from a virus that is affecting us all. Remember that. Remember that when people are sick, when people are afraid, and you offer healing, you offer freedom from anxiety, you offer hope of restoration, not only to health, but to society itself, well, the crowds descend upon that hope. You would do well to remember this pandemic for the rest of your life, this unique moment in our history. Perhaps it will help you see what others so long ago saw in Jesus Christ, because he was offering hope and healing and freedom. He was offering that and so much more. He was showing us how to care, how to raise one another up. He was inspiring those whom he healed to a life of diaconia, a life of service to God and the world that he created. He was living the story of a loving, life-giving, liberating God who created us in his image and did not abandon us even when we failed him time and time again, but rather came down, humbling himself to live as one of us, this story of salvation, this story that frees the captive, that heals the broken, that brings hope to the sorrowful. This story, this gospel was his beginning of that message. This healing in Capernaum was the launch of the grandest story that would reverberate to the ends of the earth and continues to us this day. Or have you not known? Have you not yet heard? Has it not been told to you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is he. It is God. And what God does is amazing. I love you. God bless you. Goodbye for now.